Let's build a landing page from scratch using Thrive Architect. Hello, I'm Shane from Thrive Themes, and I want to give you another preview of the Thrive Architect WordPress plugin by doing one of our landing page from scratch videos. So we're going to build a landing page that I call the homepage sandwich. And I'm going to show you what this landing page looks like, what it's about, and then we'll walk through step by step how to build this page using Thrive Architect. All right, so the idea of the homepage sandwich is this. It's, for me, the simplest kind of homepage to create for almost any website. So kind of if you don't have any ideas of what to do this. The sandwich is this. You have your blog content, you have a gallery of your blog content sandwiched in between a call to action and another call to action. And here's an example of what this page can look like, and this is the example we're going to build. So as you can see, we've got a simple header with a navigation menu. Then we've got the main heading that tells us what this website is about. And then we have got, in this example, this would be like for a personal brand or for a personal blog. So we've got an author here, an author highlight, and we'd have some text that basically, together with the heading, this text would tell you what this site is about and what to do next. And then we have a button that we can click, and this button would maybe go to a landing page, or it would open up a subscription lightbox or something like that. But this is the first call to action. You tell them, this is what the site is about, click here to get a thing, right? Then we have the blog content, and we just have some very simple demo content here. This would look nicer with featured images, of course. We have that here. And then we have the second or the third part of the sandwich, which is, again, a bit more about the author. So strengthening kind of the person behind the brand. And then once again, a text or a box in this case that tells us what you can get and the button to get it. So that's it. That's the sandwich, right? We have a heading and a first call to action, and then the blog content, and then a second call to action. Pretty simple. So let's load up Thrive Architect on a new page. As you can see, I'm using just a default WordPress theme here, and we're going to get started. And keep in mind, this is an early version. This is not a finished version of Thrive Architect, but I'm going to show you some things that you can expect. Now, I'm going to go to landing page settings, and I'm going to load a blank landing page. So this overrides the theme, and we can start building a landing page from scratch. Now, before we dive in, actually, one thing I want to clarify here is the goal of this video is not to show you the latest, fanciest features or the most special things that Thrive Architect can do. I want to make a landing page from scratch video here because we've made many of those before using Thrive Content Builder. And I want to show you that, first of all, you can still do everything you could do before. And secondly, all of the basic workflows have been improved in some way. So I'm going to show you, not necessarily highlighting special features, I'm just going to show you how to do the things that you're already used to doing. Plus, we will encounter a couple of things that are new, of course, in Thrive Architect. So we start with a blank page, and what we have, again, a bit more easily accessible here, are landing page settings. So I can make some general style decisions for this whole page before I start building actual elements. Now, what I'm going to do to make this a bit easier for myself is I'm going to duplicate this heading. We have a heading on the page by default here. I'm going to make a heading 1, a heading 2, and a heading 3. And I'm also going to put a paragraph on the page. And this gives me a bit of a guide. I'm also going to put a background section on the page. I'm going to put that at the top. And then I'm going to go into landing page settings. So landing page settings. And here what I would do as usual to replicate a landing page, I can go to my original page. I can inspect, this is a heading 1, and I can get the information I need here. So for example, we have the color, it's Source Sans Pro 48 pixels, 1.40 em. So I can go in here and I can choose fonts. Now right away, here's a new thing. So by default, you can set the fonts to just inherit your theme's fonts. That means it will not load any additional font files or anything. It'll just use whatever your theme uses. Or you can choose web-safe fonts, or you can choose Google Fonts, which is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to search for Source Sans Pro. 400, 600 sounds good. Then I'm going to change the color here. And as you can see, we have a color picker that you can use, and you can also do an input here. So I'll choose that. And I can choose the size, which I believe was 48, and the line height, EM 1.4. Okay. And in the same way, I'm going to style my other headings. So I've done that, and I've got my fonts to work with. And the background section, I'm also going to make a small adjustment to this, so I can choose inside the background section, I can restrict the content width. So I can basically choose how wide do I want my content to be. And in this case, I want it to be 1080 pixels. So I do that, and I'll also apply side padding to the inside, and we'll see later why this is significant. And this is the basic section and the basic text blocks I'm going to be working with. I'm going to duplicate the section a couple of times because I'll need it more than once. And now we can get started building this page. So first, at the very top here, we have this logo and a navigation menu. So we'll start by dropping an image here and choosing the logo. And by the way, these alignments, that's one of the new things. So settings that you choose here in the Media Manager for WordPress will apply, whereas before they were basically ignored and you had to make the settings separately. So right away I can say I want this to be left aligned. And I insert this in here. And then we have a navigation menu, which I can find by scrolling through or by searching for menu. And I'll insert that right here. Then I go here, and first of all, I will apply the same font here. So I will go to the same, so it looks the same as the rest basically of my page. I'll do that. And the font size is something like this. I can also give it a text transform so it's uppercase. And I'll change the colors. I'll skip ahead so you don't have to watch me color pick. All right, like this. And then what we also want to do with this menu is we want to right align it. So we're going to align the text to the right like this. Now we will take this image and we will make it float. That means that the image will allow other elements to kind of slip in next to it on the same line, which is what we want here for this menu. Now I'm going to select the background section and I'm going to add some padding just to make it a bit wider. And there we have it. That's our top already almost done. Actually, what we have here is a very light gray divider. And I'll apply this as a bottom border on the background section. So on this section, I'll go down here. I'll choose the bottom border. I'll give it 1 pixel and I'll make it a very light gray. And there we have it. That's the beginning done. So then we have a headline here. And I can use, well, I'm only ever going to use one H1. So I'll use this one. Paste in. Then, of course, you can edit this in line. All the text is directly editable. You can also undo with Control-Z. You can directly select text. So everything is instantly editable as you see it. Right? I can get rid of this again like this. And we have inline options such as the alignment. And I think we had some bold words, so we can go like this, right? Another thing we can do, as you can see here, the headline doesn't run as wide. And before you had to use a content container and restrict the width of the content container. Now you can simply choose the element and go to layout and position and choose a width for that element here. So we'll do that right here. And as you can see, everything, of course, updates live. Another thing which I really like is layout and position. This is margin and padding, which has become much, much faster to use. So I want more spacing around this heading, and I can simply drag. I can click and drag here to add space to the top, add space to the bottom like this. All right, next up, now it gets a little interesting. So we've got this color background section. And this here is our background color, which I'm going to grab here. So this is what we want to apply to the section, but then we have some stuff in here. So let's start with the basics, right? We have a background section. I'll give it a color like this. That's a good start. Then we have an image inside, which is our first author image right here. Ooh, I forgot to set the alignment for this correctly. What I can do here is, I'll try this again. That's currently not quite working yet. So we'll do it like this. It also needs to be smaller, this image, maybe something like this. Okay, what's next? Then we have a name and some text. So I'm going to duplicate my paragraph twice, actually. like this. We can barely read it, of course. So what I'll do is I'll get this text color first. That's this here. And I'll apply that here. And here we have the name. So I'll type that, Zach Martin, and I'll center align it. And then here, this text here, let me copy paste that. That's also something that works quite a lot better now. Copy pasting is more reliable, less glitchy than it was in Thrive Content Builder. Okay, so we've got this, and then we've got a button. So let's get a button, put it here. We can change the style, so we can make it a ghost style button right away and align it to the center. So here we have like the basic elements that make this, but of course you can see there's a lot of styling missing. So where do we start? Let's do the background here. As you can see, we have a pattern overlay here on the background. And the way we can do this now is we can have multiple layers of background on top of each other. So I've got a background color, and on top of that I can add an image. Choose an image. I think this is probably it. There we go. And then I choose repeat tile to make it a pattern style background. And apply that. Now we've got a nice background image pattern. And by the way, you can add more layers of stuff, right? So you can put semi-transparent gradients and stuff on top of that as well, and you can arrange your layers. But we're not going to do that. But that's the idea of layered backgrounds. Now, the image here needs a few things. So first of all, it needs rounded corners. I can click and drag until it's round. Then it needs an outline, which was white. So I give it a border like this. That's probably too thick. Maybe like this. It also has a slight drop shadow, which we can also add. We'll add a shadow like this, and we'll make it quite small, I think. So we'll make it a relatively subtle drop shadow, something like this. And then what we also want to do is we want to have this overlap effect, and we can just click and drag like this. Then to compensate for the space that we lost here, I'll just add, oops, that's the wrong side. I'll add a bottom margin, a larger bottom margin here to the text. There we go. That's fairly close, I think, right? Here, this is just a question of the font size and change the line height a bit as well. Okay, and it's different font as well. So choose a different font. I think this one is called Laura. Like that. I think this is a bit too big now. But you get the idea, right? Same thing, we definitely want a bit more space around this. So go like this. This seems fine. So then let's do the button. The button is a ghost button with a hover effect. So that's pretty interesting. So it says get the guide. So let's, that's another thing that's easier. I can just edit the text directly in the button. So I go get the guide, and then we have, so we want to change a few things about this. First of all, button size. We want this to be bigger, and we can just resize the entire button like this. So it's really the simplest way to resize buttons. Very cool. So resize it to about this size. And then we need an outside border. That's fine, but we want it to be white. And the text here, we also want the text to be white, like this. And now we also want to add a hover effect. So what we do is we select the button and we switch the state from default to hover. And then we choose the background style and make the background white. And we choose the text and make the text color this shade of blue. And there we go. Exit state. So now it has this hover effect. Pretty simple, right? So now we have a bit more spacing work to do, right? We move this around a little bit. Definitely need more space at the bottom here. And I think that's a pretty good replica of what we have here. All right, the next section, I'm going to duplicate this. I think I need a couple more sections. The next section here with the posts and stuff is a bit boring, to be honest, but basically we've got a paragraph that says check out the blog or something, and we'll resize that. And basically there's nothing very interesting happening here. This is the post grid that we already know from before. You know, you make this once, you duplicate it. There's nothing interesting happening here, so I'll just skip forward to the next bit. Okay, we've done our blog content section, and then we have another blue section with this stuff here, and this is much more interesting. So let's get started by, well, first of all, we need columns. So I'll add columns in here. We want 2 columns. And you can also make columns by just dropping things next to each other, just like in Thrive Content Builder. So we've definitely got some text in here, and the text is white. And I'm going to copy paste this here. So we've got our text here, and then on this side we have an image. So I'll drop in this image, and that's this one. So as you can see, we've got this image with kind of background pattern, but we don't have this who is this guy text. This text is actually on the page. This is actually text on the page. So let's see how we can do that. We can basically take, I'm going to take text again here. I'm just going to duplicate that. Place it here, and we write who is this guy. Okay, and what we want here is, first of all, we want the same color that we had here. And you can see another thing that maybe you see me do here is, you know, it's a lot easier to kind of grab the color from a different element. So even if you haven't got it saved, it's a lot easier to do that. We also want to make the text larger. And we want to restrict the width. And again, remember, I can do that directly on the element, right? I can go like this to restrict the width. Go something like this, and then we also have the Laura font again, like this, and it's italic. There we go. So I think that's about it. Now, about the positioning, how do I get this on top of the image? So this is one of the more advanced features. If we go into advanced layout and positioning options, we can position this absolutely. An absolute position is basically in relation to the background section it's inside. And an absolutely positioned object is ignored by other objects. That's why you saw the image like move up as if the text wasn't there. I can then edit the position. I'm going to position it from the top left corner here. I'm going to position it here. So now we've got this in about the right spot. Now another thing I'm going to do, actually let's add the content box first. So we've got a content box with stuff in it. So we have a content box. I'll place that below the columns here. I will add a inside padding to the box like this, and I will give it a background like this. Okay, and then we have a bunch of stuff in the box which is not that important. We have a heading, some text. But the stuff in the box is actually not that important. What I want to show you is what we do with this. How do we make this layout happen? That's what I want to show you. And then there's another important thing to cover before we come to the end of this video. So what I want to do is I want to edit the columns here. And I can choose, right now I clicked on the image inside a column container, and through the breadcrumbs I can go and select the column container. And first of all, I want a bit more space between my text and this stuff. And now I want to align the content in the columns towards the bottom. I also want to remove the bottom margin here, because ultimately I want the bottom of this image to stick to the top of this box, right? So I'm basically removing the spaces here. I'll remove the bottom space here as well. move everything down. And instead, I'm just going to move the text up a bit. So I'm going to give that a bottom margin, right? Move the text up a bit. And then I can remove this to 0, and they probably won't stick yet because this image goes further down than this edge. So I'm just going to go like this until the image sits right on top of this box. There we go. So, and now we have some stuff in this box that, and I'm not going to go into that, right? Because I think at this point you can imagine how, I put the button in here, I make this footer thing. There's really nothing we haven't already done here. So I'm going to leave it as it is because the next important step I want to show you is, I'm going to save my changes here. And now I'm going to do the mobile editing. So I'm going to switch to the tablet view to have a look at what this looks like. And the rule from before is still true, right? Anything you build is automatically already responsive. So as we can see here, basically this all looks fine. And I think, well, here we have to start doing some tweaking, right? Because here, that's one of the problems with absolute positioning is that this kind of thing happens, right? So let's select these columns again. And here for this view, let's move stuff a bit closer together. And then let's select this text here, make that a bit smaller and less wide. Then it's probably fine again, like this. So here we had to modify a bit, but otherwise on tablets it looks good. So let's go on the phone view. And now here you usually have to change some things. So for example, we can see these aren't properly aligned anymore. So I'll just move this down a little. And the thing is, this only affects the phone view. So any change I make on the desktop view affects all views, okay? Basically cascades down to the smaller screen sizes. Any change I make on the tablet view applies only to the tablet view and to the phone view. And any change I make on the phone view only applies to the phone view. Now note that if you make inline changes, so if I change what's written here on the phone view, that applies everywhere, okay? The way you can think of it is only changes made in the sidebar are basically mobile specific, right? Responsive specific. Everything inline applies everywhere. So what I want to do is I want to select this heading and I want to make it smaller on phones, maybe like this. And we can do some other tweaking. Now, by the way, this is why I originally added paddings to these page sections. If we don't have padding on the page sections, then there's no space between the edge of the screen and the content, and that looks doesn't look very nice, right? So here we have something where we probably want to add, I selected the wrong thing, we probably want to add some space here. And then we have our posts gallery, and here again I can basically tweak this a little bit. I can probably change the size again. So this will only change the size on small screens. And I can change the position a bit like this. Oh, and something wrong here, right? What I want to do is on columns, I want to reverse the order of the columns on the mobile view so that now it still sticks to the top of the box. And that's basically it. Another thing we can do, and I'll just demonstrate this, if you basically, let's say you want to have less content or something in the layout just doesn't work on a mobile view, another thing you can do is you can hide things on specific screen sizes. So we can say, you know what, on smaller screens, let's only show one set of posts. So now we have our landing page done. We have the large view of our homepage sandwich. We have the tablet view of our homepage sandwich that we can see here. And we have the mobile view. And as you can see, it looks great on all screen sizes. So that was a look at how Thrive Architect works and what landing page building will look like with Thrive Architect. I hope you like what you've seen so far, and of course, more previews and demos and feature demos are coming soon. Let us know if you have any thoughts or feedback or suggestions by leaving a comment below.